We all know John Wick,
We called him Baba Yaga.
the tough guy with a heart of gold who really just loves his dog.
Because if you don't fight for your love, what kind of love do you have? No, I'm kidding.
Well, allow me to introduce you to this other kind, gentle, sweetheart of a man.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
Nishi Yoshitaka is a retired police detective and the lead character of the 1997 Japanese crime drama film Hana-bi, aka Fireworks. Written, directed, edited, and starring Takeshi Kitano, the film is a very personal body of work and is arguably the most important entry in the director's career. Upon release, Hana-bi would go on to win the Golden Lion at the Venice International Film Festival, establishing Takeshi Kitano as an internationally acclaimed filmmaker, and rightfully so because the film is actually a banger.
Someone cooked here.
But before we go any further, I would like to issue a spoiler warning. Also, I would like to issue a disclaimer because this video is going to talk about some topics that might be triggering to some, as you can see them floating around. So yeah, you have been warned. Nishi Yoshitaka, as a police detective, seemed to be on God's bad side. After the death of his only child, his wife was hospitalized and diagnosed with terminal leukemia. In a stakeout gone wrong, his colleague and best friend Horibe was shot and left paralyzed from his waist down. In a botched arrest attempt, two of Nishi's junior colleagues would get shot, leading to the death of one and the other being hospitalized for severe injuries. Luckily, this was the last straw that finally got Nishi to retire. As an unemployed man, Nishi spent his days looking after his wife, who after months of no recovery had been delegated back into his care by the hospital. And as for Nishi's best friend Horibe, he was abandoned by his wife and child, owing to the fact that he was now jobless and a cripple. And as for the wife of Nishi's dead colleague, she had now started taking on odd jobs to fend for herself and her son. And in all of this, Nishi remained the only constant, caring and looking out for these people. Ensuring his wife's brain stayed active, letting his colleague's wife know she wasn't alone, and being a listening ear to his lonely best friend, who had just mentioned being interested in getting into painting to pass the time, but not having the resources to buy the equipment. Things were fine for a little bit, until Nishi gets informed that Horibe tried to take his own life by overdosing on sleeping pills. And this is when Nishi finally decides to pull the plug on getting those art supplies for his bestie. However, this splurging does not come without its own consequences. To pay for his wife's hospital bills, Nishi earlier in the story had borrowed money from the Yakuza, an organized criminal group operating as loan sharks that make their money by collecting absurd interest rates from their clients and making it virtually impossible for them to pay off their debts. Also, they kill any defaulters, and at this point in the story, Nishi had missed a month of payment on his interests. While out for a drink at some bar, Nishi is confronted by some goons of the Yakuza, and this goes down just about how you'd expect. However, Nishi hatches up a plan to keep the Yakuza off his back and maybe even solve some other of his problems. He goes to what I can only describe as a garbage dump and he finds a good deal on a stolen taxi cab and proceeds to have his own episode of MTV Pimp My Ride and turns it into a passable police car. Also, I just have to mention this because there's a wonderful interaction between Nishi and the person running the garbage dump, whose name is Tezuka. So Tezuka asks Nishi why he's interested in a beat-up cab, and Nishi straight up tells him point blank that he's going to rob a bank with it. It's so out of pocket, and Tezuka's reaction is beyond hilarious. Funnily enough, when Tezuka delivers the car to Nishi, he adds a police light as a bonus. Anyways, a couple days pass and Nishi pulls off what I can only describe as the chillest heist ever, making his way in and out of the crime scene with a brisk walk and even driving past the police like an absolute baller. And this sequence gives us my favorite scene in the whole movie, which is where Nishi drives past Tezuka's place and the two have a brief character moment which feels like payoff in and of itself. But anyways, Nishi's heist makes the news, and with some spare change on his hands, Nishi not only pays off his debt to the Yakuza, but he also shares some of his spoils with Horibe and his dead colleague's wife. It's also at this point in the story that Nishi finally decides to take his doctor's advice and take his wife on a trip. Their road trip spans several days across various places in Japan, and the two share a lot of happy moments together as Nishi's wife's condition seems to start improving. But the happy moments don't last long, as the Yakuza is able to deduce that Nishi was the one behind the bank robbery, and they decide to go after him to
Make him an offer he can't refuse.
The Yakuza track down and confront Nishi, but he kills them in a violent shootout. Unfortunately, the Yakuza weren't the only ones that were able to deduce that he was the one behind the robbery. And the next day, as he and his wife enjoy the view at the beach, they are found by Nishi's former partner Nakamura, who intends to arrest him. But Nishi asks Nakamura to spare him a moment of time, and the couple comfort each other as Nishi's wife says her first and only line in the whole movie.
ありがとう。
come me.
And the camera pans away to the ocean as 2 gunshots are heard in the distance. Leaving us to wonder who ate those bullets, Nakamura and his partner, or Nishi and his wife. The plausibility of either of these 2 options is not a coincidence, as it's actually one of the strongest themes of this movie, and that is the theme of duality. Portrayed strongest by the main character Nishi, the theme of duality is on full display throughout this movie, as he is not just capable of intense feats of violence, but also the most tender kindness. And this is a coin that flips on a dime, as even when Nishi is tracked down by the Yakuza and a goon is sent to threaten him with a gun, Nishi doesn't just respond with violence, but rather he takes the gun and he gives the kid time to escape. Furthermore, when Nishi robs the bank, there is a conscious effort to ensure that no violence is used, even though he's committing the very violent crime of armed robbery. Another theme that stands out to me in this movie is the theme of defiance. From the very start of this movie, Nishi experiences one loss after another, but in no moment does any of it break his soul. And as a matter of fact, it only seems to make him more grateful for the things that he has left. When his wife goes into a vegetative state, he doesn't give up on her. He loves her still, as though she were her regular self. In a world full of sadness and misfortune, Nishi continues to pursue happiness, not just for himself, but for the people that he cares for as well. The theme of defiance is also portrayed through Horibe, Nishi's best friend. Although his misfortune does break his spirits initially, leading to a failed attempt to take his own life. After Nishi buys him art supplies, he decides to give himself a new purpose, spending his newfound free time enjoying the scenery of the beach and creating art, defying his desire to end things, and choosing instead to live beautifully. And Nishi, on the other hand, continues to fight for his love, despite being a human that gets bruised and beaten. There are many other themes in this movie, but I picked these 2 because they resonated with me the most. The fact that the same person that is able to do this is also capable of this just goes to show that kindness and love can really come from anywhere. Also, I can't speak for the Japanese public, but for most of the world, the police aren't people that you would consider to be kind and loving. Here in Nigeria, we had the NSAS protests in 2020, where a majority of the younger generation rallied around the country to protest against police brutality. And over in America, police brutality continues to be a constant issue, despite the cataclysmic events that was George Floyd. And in addition to the theme of duality showing me that anyone is capable of great feats of kindness, the theme of defiance portrays an equally profound message. During Nishi's road trip with his wife, the 2 make a stop at this shrine with a giant bell, and while resting, a father walks up to the bell with his son. His son is excited to ring the bell, but his father tells him that it can only be rung at a specific time of the day and that he'll just have to wait to hear it. It's not the kid's fault that he came here at the wrong time. Sometimes life just doesn't go your way. And that's why it didn't surprise me that as the family walked away, Nishi rang the bell, because no one understands that fact better than him. All the misfortune that life had thrown at Nishi had only allowed him to extend more empathy to people. And this is the strength of the theme of defiance in this movie to me. The message that one's suffering does not entitle them to make life more miserable for others, but rather that suffering empowers them to better understand and empathize with the suffering of others. And this makes Hana-bi a unique film because although it's an action film, you don't finish it feeling like a badass that can take on the world. You finish it feeling more like Mother Teresa, although she was a badass in her own right. Aside from the themes and messages in this movie, there are also a lot of things that I love about it. The scenery is absolutely gorgeous and the cinematography takes full advantage of that fact. Also, the paintings in this movie, there are so many and they are all so pretty. And guess what? I decided to check who painted them and all of them were done by Takeshi Kitano. This man is a legend that did so much for this movie and we love him for that. Also, the score of this movie was composed by the legendary Joe Hisaishi, the man behind your favorite Studio Ghibli songs. Hana-bi in all is a wonderful movie and is one of my all-time favorites. And I'm not kidding when I say I strive to be more like Nishi Yoshitaka, to have more gratitude for my suffering, as it enables me to better understand and empathize with that of others. But anyways, thanks for listening to me ramble about this old Japanese movie. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.